for aha Ghanatube so me mama kwaba and back channel way so and I'm when you say someone who draw a course or my gun no and I de ever who's for my hopwa and say back me be able saying good here who's for dimension na yengotie in sem.
Now let's digress into other matters because President John Dramani Mahama has made some appointments. Recall that in Boko yesterday he hinted of a shake-up in the security apparatus of the country, and subsequently today a statement issued from the presidency's communications bureau has confirmed same. President making key national security appointments, which appointments will see the likes of Kofi Boakye, Prosper Bani, Charles Kipo in new security appointments. And so I'll just bring you a brief of it, and then I'll engage my colleague Hansen Ajiman on these particular appointments. Story says the President John Dramani Mahama, and I am reading this story from citynewsroom.com because we have received a copy of that letter and subsequently published the same. The story says that President John Dramani Mahama has announced a series of key security appointments aimed at strengthening national security and ensuring safety of citizens. Leading the appointment is Prosper Douglas Bani, who has been named National Security Advisor to the President. Mr. Bani, a former Chief of Staff and Minister for the Interior, brings extensive experience and expertise in governance and security to the role. You have DCOP Abdul Osman Razak, who has been appointed National Security Coordinator, tasked with ensuring a cohesive and strategic approach to the country's security initiatives. The President has also named COP Nathan Kofi Boakye, retired, as Director of Operations at the Presidency, where he will oversee operational effectiveness in security matters. COP Boakye is renowned for his decades of service and operational acumen. Additionally, Charles Kipo has been appointed Director General of the National Intelligence Bureau, NIB, a critical role that focuses on intelligence gathering and analysis to preempt security threats. These appointments reflect the administration's dedication to maintaining national security and fostering trust among citizens. And so when you go to citynewsroom.com, also channel1news.com, you find copies of the statement there, which was signed by the acting spokesperson to the President, Felix Kwakye Ofosu. My colleague Hansen Ajiman has joined me in studio to take a look at these appointments as made by John Mahama, His Excellency, the President of the Republic. Hansen, thank you and welcome. These appointments, not new faces. They have been in the system over the period. So let's look at someone like Prosper Douglas Bani. He has served as Minister for the Interior before. This time, he's taking the role as National Security Advisor. What does he bring?
I mean, he brings worth of experience, of course. And obviously, if anything from the appointments of John Dramani Mahama is to go, then we are beginning to see the sort of thinking that is going through his mind and his advisors as he makes his appointment, that he needs people of experience, people who've been there before, particularly because he's been president before, and a lot of people have argued that this is a time for him to build a legacy for himself, a legacy that will speak well of the man who had been president, became a former president, and has become president again. I mean, Prosper Bani, apart from being a Minister of Interior, has been a former Minister of Interior, was a former Chief of Staff. And obviously, if you look at the role that the Chief of Staff plays, the Chief of Staff, even though there exists the role of the Vice President, the Chief of Staff literally is a 2IC of the President. The Chief of Staff, often than not, is the one who ensures that there's discipline within the government, ensures that there's discipline among appointees. And so if he's coming in with the experience of being a former Chief of Staff as well as being a former Minister of Interior, with being a former Minister of Interior means that you essentially have the function of keeping the peace within the country. And so agencies like the Ghana Police Service, that is primarily responsible for protecting property and ensuring peace within the country, would often than not report to the Minister of Interior and work hand in hand with the Minister of Interior. Now, when people are in government, and as we've seen in past governments, the greatest challenge has to do with the actions and inactions of his own appointees. Talk of abuse of office, talk of people who think that their government is in power and so they can do what they want. And so to have somebody who has performed the role as chief of staff, which essentially among all other things is to ensure sanity within the government and knows how government appointees operate, and the same person having served as Minister of Interior and having had briefs on security challenges of the country in time past and still operating within the space even after his party went out of government, I think that is a good appointment. And of course the works of Professor Bani is known by many, but particularly because of the peculiar security challenges that the John Dramani Mahama administration has taken upon itself to tackle with respect to the Boko conflict, respect to other chieftaincy disputes that the John Dramani Mahama administration is seeking to put an end to by the time the 4-year tenure has ended. He will need somebody like that. And of course, when you talk about the national security advisor, essentially his role will be to make sure that at least the president is well briefed. The president, before taking any decision on security issues, will have a better understanding of what is at stake and the pros and cons of the various options that the president would seek to take. And so having somebody who the president also believes in is important. And mind you, even before the president was sworn in and before this appointment, some of these persons had already been named to take charge of security activities within the transition period. It tells of the sort of confidence that John Dramani Mahama reposes in the likes of Prosper Bani and COP Neta and Kofi Boache and all the other persons that have been named in this major security appointment. An observation I must say is that when it comes to governance, perception is key. And so when the people see the leader to be very decisive, it helps with the perception. And I must say, in the first 1 week of the president, he's been nothing but decisive in what he seeks to do. Whether you decide to call his appointments thought by thought basis, or whether you wish that he would have brought all these appointments at the same time, there's one thing that is common, that he knows what he wants to do. I mean, as to whether what he wants to do and what he's doing will indeed fly, we leave it to time. But he is certain in his mind the people he's seeking to work with. I mean, yesterday he was at the he was in Boko, and then he visited the Nigeria as well in the northeast region. And the major outcome of the meeting was that he was going to appoint his security corps. And of course he has lived to that expectation. He's appointed them. These are people again that since their appointment during the transition period to coordinate national security issues, we've seen how the party base itself has been happy with the appointment. And I think that in a polarized political environment like ours, also appealing and appeasing to to the party base is also essential. Mind you, we are always one step away from another election, and also keeping the peace of the country is essential. Sometimes trying to get the buy-in of all persons is needed. And for me, my initial comments is that the decision as has been taken by former President John Dramani.
It will take some getting used to. It will take some getting used
by
to.
President John.
Exactly.
By President John.
We've been calling him former president for a very long time.
I mean, for 8 years.
For 8 years. So
President John Dramani Mahama
yes.
is instructive.
His Excellency.
It's instructive. It's decisive. And of course, the security issues that we face as a country are enormous. And also, it takes some level of collaboration between these persons and the institutions for which they are going to head to be able to keep the peace as we have it in the country. Right.
The president on January 3, during the transition, made some appointments to his national security coordinating team. 2 of those names have now received permanent appointments within the security setup of the country. The 2 you would have Prosper Douglas Bunny in there, and then you would have COP Nathaniel Kofi Boakye retired also in there. I'll just briefly look at this initial setup by the president, and then we'll look at what appointments he has made today, and then we can draw some comparisons or otherwise from there. Now, President John Dramani Mahama, then president-elect, unveiled a 6-member team to manage and oversee national security matters pending substantive appointments to key positions. The team, to be led by the former Minister for the Interior, Prosper Douglas Bunny, will assume its responsibilities starting Tuesday, January 7, 2025. Then, according to a statement issued by Felix Kwachi-Ofosu, special aide to the president-elect. Now, let's look at the members of the team as was set up then by the president. Prosper Douglas Bunny, a former Minister for the Interior, he obviously was the team leader. Then you had Lieutenant General Peter Augustine Blay, retired, who is a former Chief of Defense Staff in there. Kofi Totobi Kwache, a former Minister for National Security. Larry Bevlo Lati Esquire, former National Security Coordinator. Brigadier General Fuseni Idrusu, retired, also in there. And then COP Nathaniel Kofi Boakye, retired, also in there. So this was the interim national security coordinating team for John Dramani Mahama, then president-elect. But now, as president, he has announced these appointments to his. He has made these security appointments, national security appointments, which will have again a former Chief of Staff and Minister for the Interior, Prosper Douglas Bunny, as national security advisor. Now, recall that then he was leading a national security coordinating team during the transition, but now he's been appointed national security advisor. Okay, and then you would have DCOP Abdul Osman Razak. He was not part of the national security transition team, but now he has been appointed as the national security coordinator. We know that he was at headquarters somewhere in 2017. He was sent to, I think, Adenta division. At a point, he was training security officers, even just for ahead of the elections. He trained officers for election related activities at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center and all that. So DCOP Abdul Osman Razak, initially not part of the security coordinating team for the transition, but now appointed national security coordinator. You have COP Nathan Kofi Boakye, retired, who was part of the transition team, the security coordinating team for the transition, now appointed director of operations at the presidency. And the statement from the president, he says he's to oversee operational effectiveness in security matters. Okay, we'll look at the individuals. I just want to draw the comparison between that transition team and the appointments made today.
So essentially, 3 new persons have been brought
into
two
retained, and 3 persons
have been brought into them.
You will see a form and I was some with him which my cotier and some no bet me and comments no abreme. Na meje bre akenka e dia mo fefe me ka wo se channel we so Ghanatube so on subscribe hit on the notification bell for quick updates. Obviously for sisi ade makram.